Alright, and welcome to the latest video of my follow-up to the Horror 101 series. This is how to design a horror game, or, well, how to conceptualize a horror game, really. And this video is about the character point of view. Well, really, it's the player point of view, but we're shifting around the characters, between the characters. Because it came up with about 6 different characters here, I think. There's the professor, the freshman couple, 3, asshole psychic, 4, the shy ghost geek, 5, the hot sweet girl, 6, and the owner of the house. Okay, 7. 7 different characters we can shift between. Now, so we can do this as automatic shifts at particular points in the gameplay time that would always happen. That would be one way to do it. We can key it into certain story triggers that moves the point of view to other characters, so that since the story elements would be randomized, when you shift to another character would also be randomized. There's different ways to do it, but the point would be that at some point you would be playing through the point of view of at least every other character once, even if you're mainly with the main guy, the shy ghost geek dude. You do shift around and play as other characters during the course of the weekend. And, put some randomness as to when you shift. Maybe there's no real reason, just sometimes you shift to another character. I mean, there's different ways to play with that, but the overall idea is just to change things up once in a while. Get into the shoes of other characters. And this is not something that I would be determined to do in the game. It's just an idea, a concept for something that could add some more dynamics to the game. Instead of just playing as one character, you play as all of them at various points for various events. But again, because we're trying to make this game very modular, those events would be random. So it would just depend on what would be workable. The real important thing, though, with the other characters, is the AI. So basically, you don't want them to just stand around doing fuck all while the main character does everything. So the AI would control them, and they would go off and do stuff. They would go off and investigate too. You would probably work in pairs with like 2 or 3 people at the base at all times, and then a couple of teams going out to investigate areas of the house, in pairs. Something to that effect. Again, kind of basing it a little bit off of like Ghost Hunters. That's more or less how they do it. Somebody, at least one person, is always at their base area, and then teams go off in pairs to investigate. So you'd kind of do that with the AI. The main character, you would pretty much always be with at least one other of the AI characters that are in the game, but not always. There would always be times when you'd want to isolate the main character away from everyone else to increase the scare factor. So there's lots of different ways you can use the different characters involved. Either by shifting around the point of view of a player from the one character to others, just doing stuff with the AI so they're always in action, doing things, potentially triggering events on their own that the player could also have triggered, but the AI could trigger something to happen. You could have to deal, if one of the AI, because if we did the thing with like the physical and psychological meters, one of them could end up having a heart attack or flip out. And as a player, what do you do if one of the other characters flips out on you and starts going crazy? That adds a whole new dynamic and level, a layer to the game that you would not be able to predict. You would not know what's going to happen. What if somebody gets killed by a ghost and they just kind of disappear for a while and then suddenly you find them and they're in 10 pieces someplace? It's not going to be a gory game, but that would be fucked up to find. There's tons and tons and tons of ways you can play with the characters, the AI controlled characters, or actually having the point of view shift around. There's tons of ways you can play with that effectively for horror. You know, if the main character is just kind of chilling someplace, but suddenly, like one of the girls has a ghost appear, you could shift to her point of view and have to save her. Just that would be the length of time that you'd be in control of that character. It's just long enough to experience the adrenaline and fear of that character, and then once she's safe, you go back to being the main character again. Little things like that, just to make you aware that other stuff is going on besides what you or directly are involved in. There's tons of ways you could play with that. I think that wraps up this video pretty well. Um, well, maybe I could go into some of the reasoning behind that. Again, it just goes back to the core of horror, which is to mess with the player, the audience. You want to mess with the audience. Make them doubt, make them afraid. So, if nothing's happening with the main character that they're playing, but a team of controlled by the AI has wandered off and suddenly found themselves in trouble, switching the point of view to one of them makes sure that the player is involved in what's going on, and the fear factor comes back. You don't really ever want a player to just sit around with nothing happening for too long. For a while, yeah, because that builds tension, your anticipation of something happening. But if it goes too long, anticipation turns into, well, nothing's going to happen. It fades. So you don't want that to happen for too long. So by being able to shift around the point of view randomly, you keep them involved in the action and the scares. And it also makes things a little bit unpredictable to the player because they don't know when the point of view might shift on them and they might find themselves in a fucked up situation unexpectedly. So it just adds another element of what the hell is going to happen next. Something else to anticipate and be afraid of, or weary of at least. It's just little ways to mess with the player is what you want. And by having lots of different characters that can get themselves into trouble completely outside of what, the actions of the player. Even if you don't shift around the point of view, just the fact that they're there with these 6 other individuals, but those 6 individuals are being controlled by an AI that has them off doing things. They're not just standing around waiting for the main character to do something. They're off doing shit, and they can get in trouble, they can die. They can disappear, they can vanish, they can have things happen to them. So you have to worry about them and yourself. Lots of ways to play with that. So I think that really does wrap things up. Thanks very much for watching. Give me that upvote; it's always appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't already, so you know when I have new stuff up. Share the video with people; it's always appreciated. Leave your questions, comments, and suggestions for other videos. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.